Hi friends, I'm Yakuta Karkhanawala. Today we are going to see about chapter Fundamentals of C. Here we are going to see some basic concepts of C programming language which will be used for developing a full-fledged C language. So let's start. Before going into the basic details, we'll see the evolution of C, how C was developed. So initially it all started with ALGOL programming language in 1960 by international group. There was some limitation with ALGOL, so next for that language that was developed was PCPL, that is Basic Combined Programming Language, in 1967 by Martin Richards. Again, this features of BCPL was used by Ken Thompson in 1970, and he made a new language known as B language. From B, Dennis Ritchie developed a new language, that is C programming language. Since it was developed after B, so the language was named as C language by Dennis Ritchie in 1972. After C was developed by Dennis Ritchie, it went through number of different standardization process. The first was it was standardized by ANSI, so whole universe, everywhere they used to follow this particular standards, ANSI standards in 1987. Then afterwards the standards was updated by ISO in 1990, and the latest now what we are using is C99 standard. Okay, so ANSI, ISO, C and C99, these are just the standards of C programming language, in which there were different rules and regulations that was to be followed while coding the C programming language. Next is features of C language. Okay, what are the main features? Why are we learning this particular programming language? What are the advantage or what are the features that are available in this C programming language? So the first one is it is a structured programming language. Okay, so there is some specific structured format of writing a C program, and we have to follow that particular format, otherwise we might get some errors in executing the C program. Another is it is very flexible enough to modify your program, stable enough, and it is compact. Compared to machine level language or assembly language, the C is a compact programming language. It has high portability. High portability means the program written with the C program written in one processor can be used on another processor with very few or minor changes. So it is highly portable. You can use the program written in one OS and shift it to some another OS or processor without no changes or with few minor changes. It has a built-in rich set of built-in functions available in C programming language. There are many inbuilt functions that help us to code a particular program more easily. Also, C has a feature of high-level language and low-level language. So that is, C can also be programmed in binary language. Though it has majority of the features of high-level language, but still we can code, or we can code in binary language also. So that's why C is known as a middle-level language. It is the only language which has the features of high-level and low-level language. There are many operators in C language, like bitwise operators, pointers, which helps us to assist in programming the low-level concepts. Wide varieties of data types are there in C language, and possibility of growth. If you want to expand your particular program, it is very easy to expand your program using the concepts of functions and header files. So these are the features which makes C to be a powerful and popular programming language till date. After learning C, where you are going to apply, or where the applications of C is been recently done. Okay, so C is used for developing different operating systems like Linux, Windows. Language compilers, it is used for making compilers. Also assemblers and compilers There are many assemblers and compilers which are developed using C language, text editors, embedded systems, network drivers, and so on and on. So there are many different systems programs which are written in C programming language. Now, as I said, that C is a structured programming language. Okay, so let's see the structure of a C program. As I said, that there are some formats. There is a specific format of writing a C program, and you have to strictly follow that format. Otherwise, will come across some errors in your program, in our program. So, what is the format of writing a C program? Some of them are compulsory and it has to be strictly followed in that way, and some of them there is some liberty of placing that particular part in some other sections also. Okay, we'll discuss in detail in the next coming slides. Okay, so what is the basic format of a strict program? The first one is documentation section, next is link section, third one is known as definition section, and then we have global declaration sections. After that, we have a main function. Okay, all the important coding has to be done inside this particular main function. So main, and then the starting braces and the ending braces. Within this, we'll have two parts. One is declaration part and another is executable part. Every C program should have a main function. Okay, so the execution will start from this particular main functions. Outside the main function, you should have documentation, link, definition, and global declaration section. Now, other than that, we can also have subprograms. If you want to add some extra functions, that is known as user-defined function, a function which has been created by the user. Okay, it can be 1, 2, or it can be 100, and there is no limit to this. So function 1, function 2 up to function n. So you can add extra functions in your particular C program. So let's see into more details about this particular structure of a C program. The first one is documentation section. Okay, documentation section means if you want to insert some comments in your particular program. Comments help us to identify what is the program all about and some details about the program. Okay, so we have two lines of comments, two types of comments. One is single line comment, another is multi-line comment. As a name itself suggests, single line comment means if you want to give brief details about your program, but that detail is of only one line, then we will go for single line comment. The single line comment starts with / sign without space in between. So see the example here. There is / here, and I've written a single line comment here. This program is for adding two numbers. Okay, before that there is 2/ means anything written after / it is just an information to the user or the programmer or the third person who is seeing this particular program. It is of no use to the compiler. Right? But if you want to give some detailed points about this particular program, then we'll be using multi-line comment. So multi-line comment will start with / and it will end with //. Say for example here, I started with / and then I've given that this program is for adding two numbers. It accepts two values x and y and prints their sum. Since it's not occupied in one line, it is of two lines. Okay, so in that case we'll be using multi-line comment. Always end multi-line comment with / without space in between. So it all depends whether you want to go for single line comments or multi-line comments in your documentation section. Right? So say for example, here I've taken one example with this is my documentation section. It starts with / and end with / and it is of two lines. What details I've given here is that who is the programmer name and what was the date of creation of this particular program. It's of two lines. So I've used this as a part of information in my documentation section. Next is we have link section. Link section means as we have seen in the last slide that C has rich built-in library functions. Okay, so there are many inbuilt functions available in C programming language, and all these functions are stored in some particular header files. Okay, in some particular files we say is a header file. So This header files always end, this files always end with .h. The extension of the files is h.h. So if you want to use any of the built-in features of your C, then we have to compulsory include that particular header file. Okay, so how you are going to include that header file? Start with hash symbol, then write down include all things in capital small letters. C is a case sensitive language, so everything has to be written in small letters. And wherever it would be required for capital, I'll inform you. Okay, so hash include, and in angle brackets, that is less than and greater than sign. Within that sign we have angle bracket, you have to specify the files whose functions or the feature you are going to use in our program. So here I mentioned stdio.h means stdio means standard input output. So if I want to perform any input output operations, I'll use directly the functions available in the C library, and that library is my stdio.h file. Okay, so hash include means I'm using some library, inbuilt library in my particular program. Similarly, see the example, another example. Hash include inside angle bracket string.h means I'm going to perform some string operation, that is I'm going to use some words, how to create words and use functions related to words arithmetic, okay, that are stored in string.h. So I'm going to use that also here in my particular program, so I'll include that. So you can include as many header file as you want, there's no limitation. Between space and this angle bracket, if you want you can have space, otherwise space is not compulsory. Okay, so I'm including 2 header files in my particular program, and this is known as the link section of your program. Next is hash define pi 3.14 means now if you want to define some variables whose value should be whose value you want to use it in your main program, that variables you can define it in the definition section. This is not compulsory. If you want, if it is required, you can have it in a definition section in your program, otherwise you can omit. So how you are going to write down definition section? Hash, always start with hash, define is the keyword, and then I am creating a variable. The name of the variable is pi, all in capitals. If you want you can have it in small letters also, and the value of pi would be 3.14. so after space you write down 3.14 means I am going to use a variable pi in my particular program, and the value of pi would be substituted as 3.14 in my program. Okay, hash define. So hash include, hash define, link section and definition section should always be outside the main part, this main. Okay, it should never be inside any particular function. Next is global declaration section. Again, it is not compulsory, but if you want to define or declare any variable, you can use it, you can declare it over here. It means global declaration means whatever variable you declare here, you can use in different other files also in your program. How you are going to declare a variable? Integer, that is I am going to store whole numbers in a variable x, and the value of x is equal to 50. Okay, the value of x is 50. End it with semicolon. Semicolon is must here. You don't have to put semicolon in link and definition section, but you have to put semicolon in the global declaration section. Okay, so I am declaring a global variable x whose value is 50, and this x variable I can use in different other files also. We'll see into detail of all this in coming chapters. Now every C program should have a main program. How you are going to write main? Void main and then brackets, round bracket means you are going to create a function, and this function should always be a part of any .c file. It's a compulsory thing. This main starts with starting braces and it ends with ending braces. So within this braces, starting and ending braces, you can write down the logic of your program. Again, this main, there can be 2 parts in the main. One is declaration section and another is executable section. Declaration means the variables which you are going to use in your program, that things you have to declare in initial lines of your particular main function. Executable section should always be after your declaration section. So I have declared a variable x whose value is equal to 5 and it is of integer data type. And then executed means I'm going to display the value of x. So printf %d/n comma x will come into detail of this print statement later on when I'll start the programming. Okay, so and you can have any executable lines after the declaration part. Printf in short I can say right now is it is used for displaying some message onto the screen. Okay, so I'm simply displaying the value of x onto the screen. After main, you can have your subprograms or your own functions in your programs. User defined function. Main is a compulsory, but if you want, you can have extra functions in your program also. Say for example, I want to add my one extra function, that is void add, and this is the starting and ending braces, means the logic of this add function will be written within this braces. You can have as many as subprograms or sub-functions in your program. This is another sub-function I have in my program, that is subtract, and this is the starting and the ending braces of this. So you can have as many subprograms as you want in your program. Not compulsory. If you don't want, you cannot. If you do not require, you can omit this particular part also. But main is a compulsory part of your C program. Okay. So we've seen comments. Header files, that is header files we use #include. It is known as, the name of this is known pre-processing directive, means before executing the program, this particular whatever header files you mentioned, this header files will be added into your program or will be used in your program. What are the different header files available in the C program? stdio.h, that is for input output functions. If you want to take anything from the keyboard and display anything on the monitor, then we'll be using stdio.h functions. We have conio, we have some console input output functions also. Mathematical functions are in mat.h. You can see all have extension of .h, means these are header files. String functions, there are character handling functions in ctype.h. If you want to work with date and time in your program, then we have time.h, and there are extra utilities functions in stdlib.h. So in coming chapters, we'll be using one by one each and every header files to get into more details of your header file. So this was all about the structure of a C program, the different sections, main sections and the subprogram section. Thank you very much.